Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses and the strongest sorcerer in all of history. And Madara Uchiha, the ghost of the Uchiha clan, and one of the most legendary shinobi to have ever lived, period. One might question who would win if these two were to actually fight, with Sukuna currently running everyone's pockets in the manga, even taking out the likes of Gojo Satoru in a one-on-one. Madara is very similar in this way, having defeated the 5 Kage, while practically calling them weak and useless, and even having to be written out of the story in a very convenient way due to being too strong for the story. One question you might have is this even close? And me and a new guest on the channel, say what's up.
Yo, what's up guys, it's Billy. It's an honor to be here.
Are going to cover exactly that. If you remember a few months ago, I made a video on Naruto vs. Gojo, covering the pure stat difference and explaining why the fight wasn't close in terms of Six Paths Naruto and Shinjuku Gojo. While I still believe everything in that video was very accurate, I do believe that Sukuna, at his absolute peak versus Madara, is a lot closer than Naruto vs. Gojo, albeit still very one-sided. In the recent chapters after the conclusion of one of the most iconic fights in modern manga, the God of Lightning, Kashimo, joins the battle, with him awakening his curse technique, which has been built up since his first appearance, Mythical Beast Amber. Once activated, this technique reconstructs Kashimo's flesh in order to manifest phenomenon that can be created by electricity, which is converted from Kashimo's cursed energy. However, since the technique causes Kashimo's body to surpass the limits of a human, it can only be used once before his body collapses, following the technique's conclusion. With this, as stated by the narrator, Kashimo surpassing the limits of a human, using electromagnetic waves as means of offense. Electromagnetic waves, such as light, travel at the speed of light in a vacuum, which is approximately 299,792 kilometers per second, or about 186,282 miles per second. A Sukuna with drained curse energy output, heavily weakened from the Battle of the Strongest, was able to dodge Kashimo's EM wave. Due to this feat being performed in Earth's atmosphere, not in a vacuum, it is slower by a minuscule amount. In Earth's atmosphere, electromagnetic waves, such as light, travel slightly slower than in a vacuum due to interactions with the atoms and molecules in the medium. The speed of light in air is about 99.97% of its speed in a vacuum, with the exact value depending on factors like air pressure, temperature, and humidity. Calcs get this feat anywhere from 1.1 times faster than light to 2.6 times faster than light. Sukuna is very weakened at this point, and after taking on his true form, is able to deal with Kashimo in this form quite easily. Most contentions with this mainly come from the, well, Maki was said to be Mach 3. Not only is this very wrong, but if you actually read the series, it's very hammered home that this is an example of a mental nerf on Maki, and after awakening her true self, she's blatantly able to beat Naoya. This is also backed up by some statements where Gege basically says that Mach 3 doesn't really make sense narratively, and sort of implies that he said that because it sounded fast. There's also many feats that debunk this quite blatantly. In the anime, Toji, who Maki is equal to, is able to dodge and actually view News lightning in slow motion. It's clear he didn't actually get hit by the lightning due to being completely unharmed when fighting Megami. Sukuna traveling across Shibuya very quickly, Akari subtly reacting and dodging lightning, and arguably Gojo's Hollow Purple, which full power Sukuna is able to react to when it's about to hit him. I think in terms of speed, Sukuna would absolutely scale to at least Kashimo's EM waves, meaning he's at the very least 2.6 times faster than light.
When talking about the speed of Madara, it's actually quite simple. There are several characters with light speed jutsu and statements that Madara would scale easily above. The major instance of Madara demonstrating light speed combat prowess was when he was fighting the 4th Raikage, who stated to have a lariat that approaches the speed of light. Keep in mind, the lariat is a jutsu that is done as a duo with Killer Bee, who stated to be slower and weaker than the Raikage. So the lariat is almost certainly the Raikage holding back his speed to some degree to match Killer Bee, and it's still near light speed anyway. We see Madara combat the Raikage several times, and even catch him in Genjutsu. Even when Madara wasn't taking the Kage seriously, he was still able to combat a light speed person. Not to mention the Raikage is the fastest ninja alive, pre-KCM, and Mifune literally has light speed techniques, adding credence to the fact that the Raikage is almost certainly faster than light. What's interesting and quite funny about all of this though, is that Madara compared fighting the Raikage and the rest of the Kage to fighting against children. So Lightspeed people are so beneath Madara that he can fight them without even trying and insults them. When talking about a live 1 Rinnegan Madara, he'd gain a 10 times amp or higher at least from Hashirama's Sage Mode, making him 10 times greater than Light as a generous lowball. We also see Madara intervene and stop an attack from KCM2 Naruto, who is vastly faster than the Raikage. How many times faster and stronger do you think KCM2 is than KCM1? That's how fast Edo Tensei Madara would be. And Final Valley Madara would be even faster, since when he came back with the Rinne Tensei, Hashirama saw him use a jutsu and said, he just now regained his original power. Meaning that even Final Valley Madara would scale above KCM2 Naruto. It's also worth noting that he felt like he could fight against Jubito, and was aware of how strong he is, which is something that took both Biju Sage Mode Naruto and EMS Sasuke with Nature Energy to do. So you can literally add another 10 times to his speed if you want to be fair, but we don't really need to do that here. Ten Tails Madara can literally spit at light speed, and combat Six Paths Naruto, who is massively superior to Biju Sage Mode. So Ten Tails Madara can be anywhere from 10 times light speed, if you're super lowballing him, to hundreds of times light speed, considering Six Paths Sage Mode is literally KCM2 with Six Paths Sage Mode instead of normal Sage Mode.
When it comes to Sukuna's AP, or how hard he can actually hit, I think there are a few things to mention. Sukuna, being the strongest in the series, massively upscales from practically any feat in the series. Even now in the Shinjuku Showdown, Ryomen states that Sukuna is still holding back, despite being faced with Jujutsu's strongest sorcerers after Gojo. In the Shibuya arc, Jogo uses an ability called Maximum Meteor. This has been calculated to generate around 1.6 by 10 to the 16th joules of energy, which is around small city level. This is around the same amount of power as Sukuna's fire arrow that he later uses against Maharaga, and since Sukuna performed this feat with minimal effort at 15 fingers, and was able to wash Jogo without getting hit, I think it's safe to say that 20-finger Sukuna massively outscales this feat. Even Dagon, with his domain expansion, was able to create an entire island. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what domains scale to AP outright, because they don't. At least for characters under Gojo and Sukuna, where domains require a whole day's worth of cursed energy to even perform. For characters like Sukuna, that doesn't really matter a whole lot since they spam domains later on anyways. If you agree with this at a reasonable high end, they would reach the island level ranges of power. When it comes to Sukuna's highest interpretations of power, it can get very contentious. I mentioned these metas before on the channel, so I'll leave this up to your personal interpretation on the matter at hand. In Yuki's fight with Kenjaku, it's revealed that her curse technique is capable of generating an entire black hole, and as described in the chapter, it was capable of destroying the entire world. Now, given the context and Gege's play on words at hand, world is always used when referring to the planet itself. This would make sense, seeing as how it's a literal black hole being used. The main contention I see with this is that it didn't destroy the world and therefore isn't a real black hole. This gets debunked by some statements in chapter 208, where after Kenjaku barely survives this encounter with that planet-busting attack, he basically says that the only reason the black hole didn't destroy the planet was because of Yuki's will, as well as Tengen's barrier suppressing it, making it weaker, and also states that it would have without that fact. You can argue that world is referring to society in this context, however, whenever they refer to society in the series, they always specify society and never outright say world. You might even be able to back this up with the back of the Jujutsu Kaisen volume, saying that a cursed spirit who consumed the fingers of Sukuna is able to destroy the world. This could be hyperbole, or be referring to a cursed spirit with all of Sukuna's fingers, which would make sense with Yuki's feat. I think if you were to take this at face value, Sukuna could at the very least hit with planet-busting power at his best. I think it'd be reaching to say each individual hit could match a planet-busting black hole, but I do think it's safe to say he does reach these levels of power, narrowly at least.
Madara is on another level when it comes to power, and lucky for us, we can get some numbers from it. Kurama is stated on several occasions to be a threat to the planet, even with just half the Nine Tails. And Madara can literally fight a Sage Hashirama on equal footing, who manhandled the full Nine Tails. We see that Madara and Hashirama fought to a near stalemate even after the Nine Tails was sealed, which means Madara was physically able to combat and stall out Hashirama's Sage Mode. This easily scales Madara to the power of the full Nine Tails. He even says so himself as an Edo Tensei when he uses the perfect Susanoo. He said he rivals the power of the Biju. Now this is either talking about Kurama, who he knows the power of, or all the Biju together, but we will just assume he's talking about Kurama since that's the Biju he fought alongside anyway. We see him casually throw out multi-continental meteors, and the Biju bombs from Kurama also have similar calcs. With his perfect Susanoo, he thinks he can cut all things in the universe, which is at least saying he thinks he can cut anything he knows the power of, which includes Kurama. With his new body in the War Arc, thanks to the Rene Tensei, he gains his past power and believes he's in a high enough tier to fight and stall Jubito for any amount of time at all. And he sees the power of EMS Sasuke and Biju Sage Mode Naruto struggling with this. Even if you say he doesn't, he's aware of how powerful Jubito is, so he'd have to be relative or greater than just Biju Sage Mode Naruto to fight individually against Jubito, as we saw Naruto and Sasuke require teamwork to do it. So we are aware base Madara is a rival to the full Nine Tails, or outright stronger, and he gains Hashirama's Sage Mode on top of that, which would give him at least a 10 times amp. If he was already planetary for scaling to Kurama, then he's 10 times planetary with his Sage Mode, and gets even bigger amp from just one Rinnegan. Six Paths Madara can spam several multi-continental meteors casually and fight Six Paths Naruto, who as we discussed should be a lot stronger than KCM2 Naruto, and is stated to be so. Biju Sage Mode would be 10 times planet level just like Alive Madara, also supporting Madara's belief in fighting Jubito, due to having planet level power of Kurama, and Sage Mode multiplying it by 10. So it's possible Six Paths Madara is anywhere from 10 through hundreds of times planet level. And if you think he scales to a fraction of Kaguya's power, even if she's high-end large star level, if Madara is 1% of Kaguya's power, then he's still in the star level ranges.
Abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen are sort of the thing that gives the characters a lot of empirical weight when it comes to cross-verse battles, specifically domain expansion. Often considered the supreme technique of any Jujutsu sorcerer and peak of Jujutsu as a whole. In Sukuna's case, his domain is called Malevolent Shrine. Malevolent Shrine ensures that anything within its effective range is mercilessly torn asunder until only dust remains. Courtesy of Sukuna's twin slashing techniques, Cleave and Dismantle, these destructive forces will only relent once the domain is deactivated or when Sukuna is too injured to maintain control. Sukuna possesses the ability to designate which of these techniques to employ against different types of targets, opting for Dismantle against inanimate objects, and Cleave against opponents infused with cursed energy. The Cleave and Dismantle within Sukuna's domain expansion is his domain's sure hit effect, which is what makes domains so powerful to begin with. The caster's abilities are amplified and any curse techniques deployed within the domain are guaranteed to hit their target. This sure hit factor is derived from the barrier's embedded technique, which is what makes this type of domain considered lethal. There is no dodging these slashes once you're in the domain, and they have a 100% chance of hitting. The only way to counter this is with the use of anti-domain technique like Simple Domain, or casting a domain of your own, neither of which Madara possesses. Cleave and Dismantle aren't techniques bound to Sukuna's domain either. He's also able to use them normally outside of his domain. The way these work are a little different. Instead of spawning onto the opponent, these attacks don't actually exist until they hit the opponent, although they are still dodgeable, as seen in this fight with Gojo. Alongside this, he's one of the many sorcerers with the ability to utilize Reverse Curse Technique, rivaling that of Satoru Gojo. Reverse Curse Technique is the multiplication of cursed energy against itself to turn negative energy into positive energy. While cursed energy itself can't heal you, reverse cursed energy can. Even currently, he's beaten so badly, yet he's able to keep his heart pumping to stay alive using it. Reverse curse technique is a very intricate way of one healing themselves. It's actually capable of healing entire limbs that have been severed, and is actually able to heal the soul itself. Although healing the soul requires the user to perceive the shape of said soul, for Sukuna, the strongest in history, this isn't a problem. Meaning that if he does get hit by a true Seeking Orb, which work on the intangible level, he could theoretically heal from it. Sukuna's world-cutting slash is one of the biggest applications of his arsenal, being an application of Sukuna's twin cutting techniques, Cleave and Dismantle. The world-cutting slash is a little different, as described by Sukuna himself, extending the target beyond Gojo to the world. Existence itself gets sliced. Regardless of durability, as long as it exists within that space, that world, those existences, would be severed into two. This could be referring to simply the three-dimensional space in which Gojo existed, negating the limitless and splitting Gojo into two. However, we will take this at absolute face value. If Madara were to get hit by the wood-cutting slash, it would negate his durability and slice directly through him. We see many times that these normal cleave and dismantle slashes aren't visible until they land, and only characters like Maharaga are even able to perceive them. Even Gojo with his 6 eyes, which allow Gojo to perceive the precise manipulation of cursed energy to the atomic level, can't see this. And Maki, who has no cursed energy, is able to perceive and dodge the world-cutting slashes by other means similar to Maharaga. The main point being that no, these aren't instantaneous slashes that are completely undodgeable like in the domain, and if Madara is quicker than these characters who are dodging potentially existence-splitting cuts, then he is fully capable of dodging these, including the world-cutting slash.
Madara has a vast arsenal of abilities, regardless of which Madara you're talking about. He has all the basic jutsus most ninja have, on top of having very advanced fire-style ninjutsu. He also has his ocular powers, which even in the final valley grant him the perfect Susanoo, Izanagi, and Izanami, and advanced genjutsu abilities that can mind control a planet-level entity. As Edo Tensei, he gains Hashirama's powers, such as wood-style ninjutsu and Sage Mode. The wood style also drains energy from whatever it touches if he decides to use the wood dragon jutsu. He also has the wood clones, who are all capable of using Madara's abilities, such as the full body Susanoo. He can call down meteors from space, and he can create forests. He also has the abilities of the Rinnegan, which go without explanation. We see him use the chakra absorbing ability, and the outer path to summon the statue when he was alive and had his real Rinnegan, which also comes with the Soul Dragon. A live Rinne Tensei Madara is basically just like Edo Tensei Madara, but on steroids. He also has the ability to use Limbo Clones, in which he can attack you with attacks strong enough to knock down Biju. And you can't physically harm them because they don't exist in our physical world, rather a world that overlaps the physical world. When about to take lethal damage, he can and does switch out with a Limbo Clone and has the Limbo Clone take the damage instead of him, and he even avoids sealing this way. Ten Tails Madara has all those same abilities for the most part, but also has Six Paths Senjutsu abilities, such as a couple powerful lightning-style Six Paths Senjutsus, and he gains, most importantly, truth-seeking orbs that can form barriers or weapons. They also erase things on a fundamental level, even to the point they can erase someone's soul permanently. This man has everything.
Genjutsu is one of the many specialties when it comes down to the Uchiha clan and the Sharingan. In terms of how it would affect Sukuna, I don't think it'd be very useful for Madara to utilize, although I do think he'd at least try it. During Sukuna's fight with Gojo, we see Sukuna get hit by a limited void, which is able to inject infinite amounts of information in infinite amount of times. Because the body Sukuna resides in is being occupied by two separate souls, he's able to inflict the mental damage onto Megami rather than tanking the damage himself. He's able to do this with infinite amounts of information to survive, so I doubt Genjutsu would ever work on him, except for maybe the infinite Tsukiyomi, which requires a Rinnegan to even endure. Black Flash is a distortion in space that occurs when cursed energy is applied within a very short amount of time of a physical hit. When a sorcerer is able to achieve this, their cursed energy flashes black, and the destructive power of their strike is equal to a normal hit to the power of 2.5, meaning that even just taking the island level interpretations for Sukuna, a Black Flash would equate to around large planet level, meaning that Sukuna, using Black Flash, would be one of the only ways for him to even scratch Madara to begin with. Taking the higher end interpretation, if Sukuna's full power hits without the use of Black Flash is able to match Yuki's Black Hole, then a Black Flash from Sukuna could potentially far exceed the stats of Madara, even exceeding that of Solar System. Black Flash, even for someone like Sukuna, isn't something he can land with every hit. Even establishing the speed difference, he'd first have to land a hit on Madara to begin with. Not to mention, Madara is able to swap damage with the Limbo Clones. Even taking this ultra highballed interpretation for Sukuna, it's still very one-sided in Madara's favor. Even if he were to land a durability negating world cutting slash, splitting Madara into two, Madara has literally healed from this exact injury. At best, Sukuna lands a Black Flash on Madara and it turns out to be a wood clone, which is very unfortunate for Sukuna. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out Billy as well. His channel will be linked in the description as well as the pinned comment. And bye.